Jellyfish, it's Tracy, and today we're going to be talking about blue cards from Aether Revolt. And I have a lot of energy right now, so I'm probably just going to film like a lot of videos because I had an iced tea and I'm just like caffeine, and I'm just like, this is why I can't drink coffee, because I feel like if I drank coffee I would just never go to bed, and that's like really dangerous. So we're going to be talking about blue cards from Aether Revolt. Now I've already done the white version of this, and I'll have like a playlist for this if you want to like watch them. But basically how I talk about these cards is oh my gosh, I turned my heater off and I just suddenly got like absolutely freezing. Oh my gosh, I'm like so cold right now. Is I talk about these in a limited sense. So I talk about them for like prepping you for a pre-release or prepping you for like draft you're gonna play with the set. Now, and I say this, that I don't know how these cards are going to play out, so I may talk about a card that I think is really awesome, and then it may not play out as great as it looks. I haven't played with the set, so I'm just like reading the cards, looking at them, and I was like, hey, these cards are cool. I don't mention all the cards, I just mention a couple of staples that I think are really solid. I have to say I'm actually pretty impressed as an overview of blue. I always feel like blue to me is one of the most underwhelming colors. Except for if it's paired with white for Blue Lit Flyers, because I just love that, but it's kind of one of my most underwhelming colors. I think it's the most underwhelming color to me in a draft limited type of sense. But this time I actually have to say there's some really solid blue cards that I think are really awesome, so let's talk about them. The first is Mechanized Production. Now, I think some people can get kind of lost in the last part of this card where it says that if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name, you win the game. Alright, let's be real here, that would be pretty sweet, but I think the main kind of draw of this card and why I think it's really solid and why I want to talk about it is the fact that beginning of upkeep you can create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. Now, it doesn't have to be a creature, but you can if you want it to, and the fact that you can just make a copy of some artifact that's really, really strong, I think just makes this card really good. I don't know, I just think this is really, it looks good. I don't know about the whole if you have 8 or more artifacts with the same name. I don't know about pulling off that strategy. I mean, listen, there's some people who are probably going to go for it and probably going to do really well with it, but again, I think the main ability with this card is really just the fact that you can create a copy of something, which is really solid, so I like this card. Alright, then we have Baral's? Is it Baral's Expertise? I really like it. I think, you know, first off, it's 5 mana, but it does 2 really different sort of things, which I think is really solid. So the first thing is you get to bounce things to their owner hands. Now what I like about this is it doesn't say opponent, so you can bounce your own stuff. So if you're like, hey, I really need this artifact to go back to my hand so I can recast it, whatever. Again, it's artifacts, so if you have artifact creatures, which I think is really solid. I really hope there are artifact creatures in the set, and I'm totally not making that up because I've been talking about artifact creatures, so let's cross our fingers and hope there are. So you get to bounce those things to the owner's hands, which is really solid, and what I really like about this too is, again, if you do have, there's artifact creatures in the set, okay. If you bounce, like, tokens, I know there's a lot of, like, those servo tokens, you bounce those, or you bounce their creatures, you know, you have an opportunity to just kill them. If they have their artifact creatures, you should just bounce them and then, you know, swing out and win the game, which I think is really, really solid. But on top of that, you have this awesome, awesome ability, which I really like this. You may cast this without paying its mana cost. Like, I just think that that stapled onto this ability makes this card really, really strong. It's a little bit situational where you or your opponent has to have artifacts on boards to bounce, but there's so many artifacts in this set that I think this is a really solid, like, main board card, so I really like it. I think this card's great. Then we have Aether Swooper. Now, this isn't a massive flyer. It's a 2 mana 1/2 flyer, so it doesn't have the best body in the world. However, at ATBs you get 2 energy counters. Whenever it attacks, you get to create a colorless servo token, which is awesome. So you have that artifact creature, really synergizes well with crew, just to have another body, have another blocker, have another attacker, whatever you want it to. I think this card is really good. I think it's an interesting type of card in blue, because I don't think often blue, not that it doesn't care about colorless, not that it doesn't care about tokens, but it's not something I've seen oftentimes with blue, so I do really like that. Yeah. Okay, then we have, this card got, okay, we have Aethertide Whale. Really good body to have in blue. So in ATBs you get, what is that, 6? I think that's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get 6 energy counters. or you can pay 4 to return to his owner's hand, which is awesome because you know what's really, really good about this is that you like gain value off of that. So like you have those 2 energy counters that you can use for other stuff, so you can bounce it to your hand to get more energy counters. Or if you wanted to just chill on the battlefield, you can just have it chill and you get all those energy counters to have that stuff. If someone goes to kill your thing, you can just bounce it back to your hand. Really difficult card to kill unless you're left vulnerable with no energy counters to bounce it. But then on top of that, it's a huge body. For 6 mana, it's a 6/4 flyer, which I think is really awesome. I like that it's a little bit higher in the power range because I feel like this card would typically be like a 5/5 flyer. Yeah, I think this card's really good. Okay, then we have Quicksmith Spy. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this card, but I think I like it, especially with the amount of just artifact tokens and a lot of things in the set that are artifacts that kind of can just stay on the board. ADTBs and target artifact gains tap to draw a card. So if you have some useless artifact that's not really doing too much for you, you can make it useful by just drawing a card. I like that it also says you don't have to discard, which I think is good. It's also 4 mana for a 2/3, so it's pretty okay. Kind of just good on like the defensive side because it's got a little bit more toughness. I think this card's gonna be like pretty okay. I like it. Next is Windkin Raiders. You know, I have kind of mixed feelings about this card, but I think I like it. I kind of wish it just did something else. I feel like it's lacking like flying and something else. Like it's got the improvise, which is pretty okay. I don't really know how improvise is gonna really play out, to be honest. I feel like Convoke, I don't know, it seemed to me Convoke didn't go over very well, but I don't know, maybe it did. So it's got improvise, so potentially you could have a 2 mana 4/3 flyer, which would be incredible. But you know, if you don't have any artifacts or whatever, it's got a nice body. It's a 4/3 flyer, which is really good. Again, it's got the evasion, so I do think that this card is pretty strong. Next is Shielded Aether Thief. Okay, so this card does a lot of different things, which is why I really like it. First off, it's 2 mana for a 0/4, really good blocker. Card's gonna block for a while, basically, which I really like about it. Then it's also got Flash, which I think is really interesting. Like, it's an interesting type of ability to have this, you know, someone just said that it's a blue wall of omens. I like that. It's a blue wall of omens that does you know, kind of different things. Whenever it blocks, so again, it's got Flash, so you can instant speed block, you get an energy counter. You gotta pay 3 energy counters to draw a card, but there's a lot of other stuff in this that is giving you energy counters, not just this. So I think it's good. I like the fact that it's just a nice blocker. People are not gonna really want to attack necessarily into this because then they, you know, you get to block it and then you get energy counters to potentially draw cards in the future. So I think this is a good solid card. I like it as an uncommon. Then we have Reverse Engineer. Now, if you get off Improvise, sweet. If this card just costs 1 or 2 less or whatever, or maybe even 3 less, for drawing 3 cards for that is really good. However, if you don't have that Improvise, 5 mana to draw 3 cards isn't terrible. Flashback to Jace's Ingenuity, which was like, that was back in like the M15, I think M14, M12, M13, whatever, like days. But yeah, just the fact that to 5 mana draw 3 cards, again, even if you don't have the Improvise off, just card advantage is really solid. Then we have Trophy Mage. Yeah, I like this card. I think it does belong in a specific type of deck. You should be running artifacts, or else this card is just a vanilla 2/2, so it's not really doing too much for you. You know, you get any artifact that you need it to, a little bit of synergy, a little bit of tutoring in their deck. It's a specific type of tutor, it very much is, but I think it's good. It's also stapled onto a creature, so you have a really good attacker or a really nice blocker, because after it ETBs, it's just done its job. So yeah, I like it. Alright, then we have Taken to Custody. Cards, this art really bothers me, I have to say. Why is the background just this orange-red? I just think the art on this card I'm not really a huge fan of. But I like cards like this. I think these instant sorcery cards, I feel like when I was looking at the blue in this set, I think another reason why I really like it is because I think there's a lot of solid creatures, and a lot of times there's a lot of meh instants and sorceries, but this is one of the instant sorceries I like. It's not quite removal, but if you're about to like go in for, you know, for the kill, and your opponent's got like 1 creature or whatever, or, you know, if they have one less creature, you win the game because they don't have blockers, they're tapped out, whatever. This is like a really cool sort of combat trick, or you can play it on the defensive side. It's an offense or a defensive card if you really, really need it to. If your opponent has like this one creature that's like super threatening and super huge, and you're having a really hard time removing it, the fact that you can just instant speed make it so, you know, it taps and it has, what do they call that? Like when something doesn't untap during its next untap step. I don't know, there's a name for it, but anyways, I think it's sweet. I like it. This art just, this art just really, again, I read a comment and now I can't unsee what I've seen. Alright, then we have Ice Over, which, you know, there's always going to be a card like this. Some sort of like blue, you enchant it and it doesn't untap, or something like that. But what I really like about this is it's enchant artifact or creature. So if someone's got a super threatening artifact that you just cannot deal with at all, this is a really good way of, it's a really good answer. Someone in the comments said that it's a good answer to vehicles, which I definitely agree to, because isn't it with vehicles aren't considered creatures? I don't know anything about vehicles. They're like not considered creatures unless you have it as an actual creature. I don't know. But anyways, it's still a really good thing. I like it. Hinterland. Oh, they just spelled the name wrong. Okay, Hinterland Drake. I was like, wait, what? Okay, so this is just an awesome card. Alright, so 3 mana, 2/3 flyer, boom, awesome, love it, great. The fact that a lot of times, you know, when you have like a mana cost that's equal to the power and toughness, and what I mean by that, I mean like it's 3 and the toughness is 3, to have something like that as a flyer is just all like really good. So it's got a little bit better in the toughness. It can't block artifact creatures, but honestly, whatever. If your opponent doesn't have flying, this is a card that should be just basically attacking almost like all the time. There's like not many good reasons about why this shouldn't be attacking, especially if your opponent has artifact creatures. The only reason would be if like they have a much bigger flyer, basically. But if not, it can be a good defensive blocker if you needed to for non-artifact creatures. So yeah. And the last blue card is Shipwreck Moray? Alright, so you know, I really like cards like that where you play it and then it's got one toughness is better than the other, or the power or whatever, and then you can buff it by some means. So it's a 4 mana 0/5, which is a really solid blocker, basically. But ATBs, and you get 4 of these energy counters. Now you can pay only 1 energy counter to make this thing, you know, get +2, +1. I'm sorry, +2, -2. So it loses a bit of the toughness. But what I really like about this too is that you can do this at instant speed. So if your opponent like doesn't block, you can like make this thing bigger, which makes it a little bit more vulnerable if they've got like deal 1 damage to your creature or whatever, so they can kill it based on toughness. But I think this is a really good comet. I think it's a really solid one and a really good creature in blue. So I think blue overall really stepped up its game with the creatures. I think one of the reasons why I think blue is sometimes underwhelming for me is because the creature department is just kind of weak. I think they rely so much on the instants and sorceries and stopping your opponent from doing things that their strategy kind of, you know, fails a little bit because they don't have enough stuff to kill their opponent. So that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion of playing limited in a couple of sets and stuff and just noticing that about blue, for playing blue for a little bit. But I think that in this set as a whole, I do really like it. I think that it's one of the best blue I think that I've seen in the last couple sets recently. So yeah, and some solid flyers, which I always am really into. So yeah guys, that was it for talking about blue. I'll see you guys later with another Aether Revolt.